What's up, everybody? This is Mason back with another founder interview. Thank you for bearing with us. This is our first international interview. So we're bringing Matty in from Belgium. Unfortunately, we can't get the video stream, so we're going to hear his voice and then share some images of Seanet, which is his co-ownership yacht brokerage. And we're looking forward to hearing more from him about that. So why don't we bring Matty on, and he's going to share a lot about Seanet with us.
Okay. Hello, Mason, and sorry for the inconvenience that you cannot see me. My apologies for that.
No worries. It's our problem, not yours. Thanks for taking the time to come on. We're excited to have you on for a couple of reasons. Before we jump into your company, why don't you share with us your other entrepreneurial experience? Because you're probably the first person that we've had on that's had, success in other business ventures before taking on the current one. So why don't you give us a bit of background on that?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. So I feel honored as being, I think, the first European guy that you are interviewing. Yeah. So I'm a little bit atypical in these interviews because I'm probably also the oldest one. I'm 58 years old. So a little bit my background, I'm a mining engineer, worked until my 34th. After the university, until my 34th, I worked in the coal mines, in production and in safety. And then at the age of 34, I started my first business. And in the past 25 years, almost 20, a little bit more than 25 years, I've had 3 businesses. So my first business was a safety service business in petrochem, the petrochemical industry, where we provided safety staffing and safety rental and maintenance and logistics for petrochemical refineries. I started a company with a very small team of 4 or 5 guys in the cellar of a niece of mine. And the company became, in a little bit more than 15 years, almost 1,000 employee company. So we became market leader in Europe in our field. So that was my first company that I successfully sold in 2013. In parallel with that company, I started more as a provider for my own main business. I started a technology company because a part of my business was the safety supervision of manholes in refineries, in tanks. Yeah, and we did that with a lot of personnel. There were a lot of peaks. And at a certain point, I could not find in the European market enough people to support our growth. And then we swapped to a technology-based solution where cameras, intercom system, gas detection with remote control to a control room. They took over the job of what we call a manhole watch or a safety watch next to a manhole of a tank in the industry. So that became now my second venture that I sold in 2015, so the year after. And another business that I started was temporary labor. So we had a lot of projects. So 6 months a year, our organization went over 1,000 people, but then 300 or 400 of them were only temporary labor that we used to support us in the bigger projects. And it became so important to have that flexible labor that I started a temporary staffing company that I then sold also after selling my main business. I first sold the technology business, and then I sold the staffing business. So 3 businesses in the past 25 years.
Very interesting. So for the purposes of Seanet, share with us why, after so many successful exits at your age, financially secure, you decide to enter into the next new company.
Yeah. Let me say, when I sold my 3 companies, the intention was to retire and to enjoy life. That was the intention. I was then 54, 55. And I must honestly tell you, I've had 1 year of sabbatical. And in that year, I'm a passionate yacht owner myself. I'm already for 35 years in boating. I owned in the past 5 boats, and now in the meantime, the last 10 years, 2 Superyachts. So I'm very passionate about it. I had the delivery in 2013 and 14 of my brand new yacht. So when I spent that sabbatical, I spent almost 6-7 months on board of my own new yacht together with my wife. I must say, a marvelous period. So I enjoyed it a lot. But during that period, getting more and more to the end of the season, get more and more bored about it. So that means that I was missing the stress of being 15, 16 hours a day running in meetings. And the main thing was being part of a team, creating something. So I felt very useless after that 1 year. I said, okay, the only thing that you do is burning money. But I was used, not I'm focused on money, but I was used to create something instead of simply doing nothing. And then on the end of that year, I said to my wife, I said, listen, it was a wonderful time, but I need to do something. And then it was my wife who triggered the idea, said, okay, when you want to do something, you are so passionate about yachting. I'm very technical in yachting, so I'm a technical engineer. So I know the inside out of my own yacht. And I also have a captain's license and a master 500 gross tonnage. So I'm very atypical. I spend more time in my engine room and in the pilot house in navigating and steering a yacht, besides the fact that I have captains on board. So then I really spend time on drinking cocktails. So my wife said, why you don't do something in yachting? And I ended up in starting up a venture in yachting.
Gotcha. So let's dive into that venture. You started Seanet. Can you explain to us what co-ownership looks like? Can you explain to us how it's different than other yacht brokerages and what the concept of worry ownership means?
Yes. Let me see. Keep in mind that I myself spent and burned a lot of money in the past 20 years on boats. So I'm very experienced in what it means to own a boat. And I really love it. Let us be very clear. I love it. But owning a boat is very often, when you speak with people who are very honest and open, owning a boat is very often a love-hate relationship. You love it when you can use it in the summertime, can spend time on board with your friends, be on anchor in a nice bay, have your toys, your water toys, and use them, and have your kids in front of you. But believe me, when you once go off the summertime and you go in the winter and you're working like hell in your company to optimize your operation and things like that, and you keep on receiving invoices and costs of a money-eating machine, what is the yacht? Believe me, it's not so nice. So it's not a matter of having the money, but it's a matter of feeling that you're burning money for nothing. So that was a little bit, that's the background. So when I now in that sabbatical year spend a lot of time on board, I also had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with other yacht owners. So when you're on a nice marina in the evening, you're hooked up, you're lined up at shore, and then very often you invite your partner or your neighbor on the boat to have a glass of wine. And then after 1 hour of talking about my business, my cars, my houses, my success, and a little bit more wine, people get very open and honest. And I noticed in all those conversations 3 things about yachting. The first thing is that a lot of people, when you speak about the downside of yachting, is that when you own a yacht, you own it for a full year, 360 days a year. Yeah? And when you really look to the use of a yacht in a normal situation of somebody who's working in a company, you have 4 weeks. Already 5 weeks is a lot of time. The majority of yacht owners, they don't spend 5 weeks on board of their yacht. So the balance between what you pay versus what you get in ownership is not in balance. And it gives you, like I told you before, not always the best feeling. It gives you a feeling a little bit wasting money for what? With the question for what? That was the first point. And I noticed that I was not the only one. The second point is that when you go to your yacht, it's a little bit, you go away to your hideaway. And your hideaway is then your holiday spot, what is on board of your yacht. So you want to not be bordered by a captain who is then coming to you and knocking on the door and wants to discuss with you in those 3-4 weeks about the budgets. And I'm not pleased with the first officer. I want to change the chief and the chief stewardess. Then you come back in managing a small company, because a yacht of a size of 30 to 35 meter, you speak about hundred thousands of euros in running cost budget on a year. You have 5 to 6 to 7, depending on the service on board of your people, crew on board. And this is a small company. So that was the hassle. So the second point was hassle of crew in a boat. And then the last point was the management of the technicalities. You're confronted, for the majority of owners, they know nothing about the technical side of a boat. So you're a little bit handed over to the trust of your captain and your chief engineer. And unfortunately, I don't say that it's always like that, but unfortunately, there are very negative experiences in a business. So those three experiences pushed me in the direction to think about it. How can I turn that into a different solution? And for me, I'm coming out of the rental business of safety equipment for temporary use and project. I said, why nobody has ever thought about having a yacht with multiple owners? Simply owning the part of the yacht and the time that you spend on a yearly basis. And like I told you before, majority of people is not spending more than 4 or 5 weeks. So why should you own 52 weeks a year when you only use 5 to 6 weeks? With ownership, you can solve it. So you bring a financial relief. And the second thing is when you then bring that ownership under a professional management of a co-ownership company like Seanet, then they take care of everything. They manage the boat. Yeah? And also there, the advantage that you only pay a part of the management and running costs on a yearly basis. And that was the trigger to launch a complete new concept in the business.
Gotcha. So take us through, if I'm a prospective yacht owner and I come in and I say, okay, I want to be a co-owner in one of these upcoming boats. Are you buying used boats? Are you guys building new ones? Take me down to the details. Like how many co-owners are there? Are we sharing linens? Like what's the deal?
Yes. First of all, we don't want to, we act a little bit like, no, we act fully like a professional architect. So that means when you want to build a house and you have a good architect, before he starts drawing designs and going in detail, he first wants to know, how do you spend your time in your house? What is your favorite spot in your house? Do you prefer to have a garden or you don't need a garden? Yeah. So it's very important for me when you would ask me now to step in co-ownership. Before I offer you a boat, I first want to know, what type of guy are you? What do you want to do? Are you more the party type of guy who wants to be in the fancy places? Or are you more the family type of guy who wants to be on anchor in a nice bay and spend time with his family and more in the nature? Or you may be somebody who wants to go to remote places, more an exploration guy. So for me, it's very important what type of guy and what type of use you have. Second thing is the differences between, are you somebody who wants to use the yacht 3, 4, 5 weeks? Or are you somebody who uses the yacht 2 weeks every month? Because co-ownership makes sense when you don't use the boat every month for 2 to 3 weeks. Then it makes sense. But when you are retired and you really want to spend your entire summer on board of a boat, then co-ownership is completely off. Then you need to own your own boat, but also do. So it's more up to the needs of a potential yacht owner that we define the ownership. Okay. So when we once know that you are more the type of the 4, 5, 6 weeks a year, then we define a percentage. Yeah, because when you go to 6 weeks of a year and you have multi-season use, that means you want to use your boat in the European and the Mets in the summer, and in the winter, for example, in the Caribbean or in Asia, in Thailand, something like that. We can set up a structure in which you have 6 owners, 6 times 16.66%. So simply 100% divided by 6, and then each owner has 6 weeks. He has 4 weeks in the Mets, of which 1 week in the preseason, 2 weeks in the July-August period, 1 week in September, and then you have 2 weeks in the winter time between the mid of December until the beginning of March. And then depending on how more time that you need, the more percentage we will offer you.
Got it. So that's really interesting. And then as I read up on Seanet, it seems like each customer can pick their own finishes to the boat. They can request a certain crew. Is that right?
Yes. I must say that what I find, what makes the difference between chartering a boat and owning a boat is the personalization. When you go on a charter boat, you can go on the best charter boat. It's not your boat. That's first thing. And and I've chartered in the past. Besides owning a boat, I chartered a lot. So the problem with charter is I've had wonderful charters, and then you create expectation, and then the year after on the same boat, you get on a boat what was almost ruined with a different crew, with a complete disaster as an experience. So the problem is that the continuity of your experience in charter is very often a question mark. So for me, owning a boat means that I go to my boat with my laptop, briefcase, my wife simply with her handbag, and that's it. I have my wardrobe with my clothing on board. I have my drinks on board. And my wife likes to have the picture of the children on board. She likes to have the flowers, what she desires on board. So what we do with boats, we personalize, even in co-ownership, a boat completely. That means that once you become a co-owner, in the first 2-3 weeks, we define together what is your taste. That can go which color of pillows, what is the vases, what maybe you want to put your own art on board. You want to have your clothing on board. You want to have your toiletry on board. I have owners even who go so far that they say, Matty, I have my mattress because I have a back problem, and my wife has a different mattress than he. So I don't want to have somebody else sleeping on my mattress. So we exchange mattresses. We exchange even linen and towels. So we personalize up to the degree that an owner wants to have it personalized.
That's really incredible. We have a question from the audience. Chris Lafferty asks, can you give us an idea of what it would cost to be on a yacht for a couple weeks a year?
Yeah, let me say now again, we are in ownership, in co-ownership. I will give you an example with a 30-meter yacht. Yeah, simply a 30-meter yacht, brand new, fully equipped. And what is very important, and that's what, because we are European, a VAT paid. Yeah, because when you want to operate the boat in Europe as a private person, it has to be VAT paid in Europe. So then you speak very quickly in a 30-meter range, fully paid, about a 10 million amount. So when you become, for example, 25% owner, you pay 2.5 million, and you have 1/4 of the season, of the entire season. When I spoke before about a total season, winter and summer, you own 1/4 of it. Yeah. So initially you pay the 2.5 million instead of the 10 million. So keep in mind that you save 75% in your initial purchase. And then only a boat like that, when you have it fully managed and you have it equipped with a good crew and you have it in a top shape, because maintenance, you can do it very cheap, but you can also do it to the high end like we do it. We want to have our boats in a top state. Then you speak about a budget around 600K, management included. Because you're 1/4 owner, you pay 150,000 euros a year in running and management costs. So it's the initial 2.5 million, and yearly it's the 150K.
Gotcha. So, and just for most of our viewers are here in the U.S., Matty's talking about approximately a 100-foot yacht. Is that?
I'm talking, yeah, sorry for that, the 100-foot yacht. Yeah. I'm talking now about the Benetti, to give you an example, because I myself a Benetti yacht owner. So we do multiple brands in our offering, but I have a specialism in Benetti, so I'm not speaking about a Benetti Delfino, Delfino 95 as an example.
Awesome. So you guys can Google that at home. So we like to have our founders share interesting stories that they've had. I can imagine in the yachting world that you've dealt with some characters, either as customers, potential clients, whoever. So could you share your most interesting story since starting Seanet?
Let me say, yeah, okay. We have sold now we started in September 2016. So now this year, September, we are 4 years in the market, so 17, 18, 19, 20 years, 4 years in the market. And we sold in total 4 yachts and 14 shares. That already gives you an indication that not every boat is 25% or 60%. So we have multiple offerings, again, tailor-made based on the needs of a client. So that's where. So one of the clients who become a very close friend of mine that I approached for a yacht co-ownership, and I was talking with him during almost 1 year, because buying a yacht is building up a trust relationship between ourselves as being a yacht broker and a potential buyer. So it's not something that people, you see them once, shake a hand, and they spend some millions together with you. It's not working like that. It's a trust-based relationship that. And it was and I did multiple offers on co-ownership, varying from 2 million to 4.5 million, so from smaller to bigger boats. And on a rainy Sunday in Belgium, it was a Belgian owner. He phoned me, Matty, do you have some time today? I said, yes, why not? He lives 200 kilometers away. Said, could you visit me? I want to discuss something with you. So I took my car, headed over there, and then he said to me, said there, Matty, I'm a little bit annoyed because he knows I'm I'm really an ambassador of co-ownership. And he said to me, Matty, I will use the boat 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks a year. Yeah, maybe in the first year 6 weeks, but it will be exceptionally. So what I'm not telling you will be probably very, very stupid, but I want to build that first boat myself. I want your guidance, yeah. And instead of because for that boat, when he would have bought that boat in co-ownership, he would have paid 3 million. He now paid 12 million. Yeah, he said, "I know it's stupid. I really know it's stupid, but I want to have that experience, that first-time experience, together with you to build my boat and to own it in the first year."
Wow.
And then so I then, together with him and his wife, we had a great experience. We defined together a boat. We did the complete configuration. I did myself the build supervision and the survey on the boat together with our team, and we delivered the boat. So last year, and in the meantime, we got closer and closer. So it's become really, it's not now a customer, it's really like a friend. We have a friendship relationship. And now in August of last year, he in his sixth week on board. So he spent last year 7 weeks, so even a little bit more than he thought. He said, "Matty, I now understand what it means to own a boat. I've enjoyed it, yeah, but please do me now a favor. It's not the money that I don't have the money, but I now fully understand the feeling of having a toy like that and not using it to the full potential and spending the money. I don't feel it. I feel a little bit annoyed by it when I come in my company and I optimize costs on all different levels. I'm a little bit confronted with the fact that I myself spend so much money on the boat." So,
Matty, did we lose you? Okay, super interesting. So we're going to see if we can get Matty back on here, but obviously it's all relative, but it seems like co-ownership is a more responsible way to own a yacht, if there is one. I've always heard people refer to yacht ownership as a purchase of passion because it ultimately makes no financial sense. But I think he's really addressing a need that's out there in the yachting world. So super interesting. I think it's always neat to hear from repeat entrepreneurs how they're able to identify a need or address an issue within a market and then build a business. And he's obviously done that now 3 or 4 times. But it was great having him on. Let me see if we can pull him back up here. So another question that came in was from Chase Garrett, a future co-owner of a Bernetti yacht. Is this available in limited locations? If you want a boat in the Caribbean, do you have to pair me with someone else wanting a boat in the same location? So through my research and my understanding of the company is they will tailor the schedule to where you want to be and when you want to be there. I do believe if the boat is big enough that they'll go across the ocean. So if you want to be in Europe for your weeks of the year, they can be in Europe. If you want to be in Asia, they can be there. But I think, or it may be like the Caribbean and Europe, and then Asia and somewhere else. But I think that there is optionality to where you spend your time. It looks like, we got a late start with technical difficulties, so it's only right that we end with technical difficulties. Want to thank Matty for coming on. This was one of the most interesting interviews that we've done. Yacht ownership is something that I don't know much about, but it was great to learn from him and see how he's making it closer within reach to.
Do you hear me?
There you are. You're back.
Yes, sorry for that. I don't know because I have high-speed internet here in the place, so I don't know what is happening.
Gosh, no worries. I just freestyled a little bit for you. So there's one question.
I heard the question of the gentleman about the Caribbeans. So we have now, future-wise, I started and we learned. So it's a learning curve also. In the beginning, we only did the Mediterranean, but we saw that having the boats in the winter on dry dock, a multi-million investment and not using, is a little bit stupid. So that means that from this year on, all of our boats do double season. So we do a season in the Meta, we do a season in the Caribbean. And the gentleman's question about only being interested in the Caribbean, that's something that we can tailor. We would then tailor it and combine it because we have European owners who are not interested in the Caribbean. You say, Matty, that part of me, the time from me in the Caribbean, I don't need it. Try to find somebody who buys that part of my share. So this is something what is perfectly feasible.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Well, Matty, this has been great. If you could leave some advice for fellow founders from your experience with any of your companies, and just give some wisdom to them, that'd be great.
Okay, good. But this is more in general. So I will start with my first character style. So what I learned is that to be an entrepreneur and to remain an entrepreneur, yeah, you have to be very persistent, and you need a lot of endurance, and you need to go through a path. So being an entrepreneur is not always being successful. So you have to learn to face problems, to solve them, to go. To fall down and to step up. So it's not something I talk very often in front of youngsters who start their companies. And but what happens too much in industry is that experienced entrepreneurs come and tell their wonderful story about success. And when you then look in the audience, the young people say, "I'm probably too stupid to do that because he only has success." Believe me, when an entrepreneur who is successful is very honest and open, but I think he should be, then he will tell you that there is no successful entrepreneurship without a lot of failures. You make a lot of mistakes. You try to step up again. You try to learn out of it, and you try to avoid it in the future and to do better. So I think that persistence, endurance is very important. Another thing, what I find is commercially very important, but not only commercially, also towards your own people, is passion and enthusiasm. I think when you want to drive a team needs a passionate leader, but also a client wants to have in front of him a passionate and enthusiastic guy who believes in the concepts that he is selling. So I think passion and enthusiasm are as important as persistence and endurance. Yes. Another thing what I want to share is when I started my business in the beginning, so being a mining engineer, I had a lot of technical skills. But my financial background, balance sheets, accountancy was not very strong. And I underestimated it. But I learned the hard way that having a good business plan and having your funding, your financial funding in order, and have a good financial reporting is very, very important. You can have a great idea, do a great job outside, but when you're not handling your wallet in the right way, you will find yourself at a certain point that you're doing great business, but you don't earn money. So financial reporting and business dashboarding is a very important one. And then what I also learned is that you very quickly, when you start growing, surround you with great people. Surround you with people who are much stronger, much more clever than yourself. I think it's very important as an entrepreneur that you have to steer your company in a way that at a certain point that you could step out and the company would run without you. I think that too many entrepreneurs, they do everything to handle everything themselves. They're a little bit the spider in the net. And in the beginning years, this is almost the natural thing to do. But try as quickly as you have enough cash flow to surround you with competent people, because that's the only way that you really can grow fast. And I mean, growing, not remaining a 2-3 million company, but growing to 50 million or to 100 million to become a big company. You need to have the right people and skill. And then the last thing, because we are now all in the coronavirus crisis worldwide, what I would say I've had in my career, I have had 4 big crises, and I would say never waste a good crisis. I've been in crisis situations. During the day, I was like a hero standing in front of my crew, trying to motivate them, and we go for it and we continue to do things. And then in the evening, I was crying in a corner because I didn't know how to pay my invoices the next day. But I think that crises are great moments to reinvent or to reevaluate yourself and to optimize things in your company. So this is a little bit my story. I don't have the wisdom. I don't own wisdom, but I must say that those points have brought me very far, and I always can go more in detail, but it would take us too much time in this interview.
You know what? We greatly appreciate what you just shared, and thank you again for taking the time to come on. Sorry it wasn't more fluid, but we appreciate your wisdom. We appreciate you sharing Seanet with us, and we're really glad that you decided to come on. So thanks again, Matty.
Mason, thank you very much, and I wish you a lot of success, because I find it a great initiative what you're doing. Great thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.